Hey everybody, it's Becky Pearson with Pivot Point of View, and today I get the great honor of hosting Lori and Jason Hansen of Midwest Family Financial in North Platte. And I wanted to have them on here because our podcast is about health and wellness, and you can't really be healthy and wealthy if you do not have good financial stability. Welcome to the podcast, guys, and we're so honored to have you here. And let's dive right into it. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got to where you're at.
Ladies first.
Ladies first. Well, thank you so much for having us. And I completely agree. Health and wellness and financial wellness all go hand in hand. If we don't have our health, we don't have wealth, and vice versa. Lack of wealth and lack of that knowledge, I think, also puts the stressors on us for the wellness piece too. So, um, let's see, where do we start? We've been in the industry, financial services, for right at 10 years. And we lead with education, which makes us a little bit different than the rest of the industry. Um, I think the other piece to that is being a duo, husband and wife. You get both a guy and a girl to have a conversation with, which as women, that's a great space to be in, to be able to have conversations with other women about our money, because most of our industry is male, pale, and stale. Uh, but I think what really drove us 10 years ago, um, besides the fact of our own personal life stories that we have, is the knowing that people do not have a space to get the information. We don't get the information, and we're just out here trying things and hoping it works. And I think both of us were really tired of being in that space of, we don't know anything, we don't know where to go to get the information. And not only were we struggling with that, we knew our friends, families, and people we were close to were struggling with that. And so I think we were just really decided it was time to make a difference in the space of middle America, and helping middle Americans figure out their money, so that we don't have, those fears and stressors when it comes to money. Because once we get the answers and we can implement a few things, it makes everything better. So I think we just decided 10 years ago that we needed to do something different. And then, it made such a difference in our lives that we were just like, we need to just keep doing this and being there for other people, because we're not alone. We weren't the
Yeah.
only ones on the island that were worried about it. So,
Yeah. And that's where I first got introduced to you guys, basically, is I think I had actually put something on Facebook because I had read Rich Woman, and it talked about having female financial or investor groups. And Jason, I think you actually replied, "Hey, my wife does these wine, women, and wealth seminars. They're free." And I was so intrigued by it, and rounded up one of my friends, Gail White, to come with. And you guys really opened my eyes that night. And so I was very appreciative of your free seminars. And, it helped that you offered a little wine and a little snack at the same time. And so I do appreciate your free educational events quite a bit.
Sure.
thank you.
And for me, I had always had an interest in the financial services industry, but it seemed like everybody I talked to, they wanted to use a bunch of big words, and they wanted to talk over me, and they wanted me to know that they were smarter than me, was how I felt.
Mhm.
And when my first career became, I was a street cop in law enforcement, and the chief of police's secretary told me about this company that she and her husband were working with. I went and talked to the guy, And this small talk when I walked into the office, and then I said, "How much would you charge me to look at my 401k and just to see where see what I'm doing and if it's the right strategy?" And he said, and the next thing that came out of his mouth, I about fell out of my chair. He said, this was back in 1995. He said $400, and I
Mm,
thought, I can't get out of here fast enough, right?
mhm, mhm.
$400 back in 1995 was my house payment, right? Well, I think my house payment was 385 back then. But anyway, so I felt about this big. I was embarrassed, and it wasn't the first time I felt that way around financial people. So, life kind of went on, and then I got injured off the job, and it put me out of work for over a year. Um, I got thrown out of a car, so you can imagine I was pretty banged up, and I scratched and clawed my way back. I still had to file bankruptcy. They foreclosed on my house, all of the stuff, right?
Mhm,
And so when I discovered what living benefits does for people, I had experienced it. I'd been through it. And so I made it my mission to teach everybody I know about living benefits. That's one of the things that got us into the industry. And ironically enough, one of the things that got me into law enforcement back in the day was because I thought cops could be better and I wanted to be better and I wanted to be the leader of people being better cops. And so when it comes to financial services, I want to be better. I want to be the person when somebody sits down with me, I don't want to say something that causes them to run out of my office because either they're embarrassed or they can't afford it. And as you know, Lori and I don't charge any fees to work with people. So,
mhm.
um, that's a good feeling whether somebody does business with us or not, we can always find a way to put them in a better spot than when we met them.
Yeah. And and I do appreciate again, the education piece that's I did not feel like you guys were salesy when I was at the Women and Wealth seminar. It just really that's why we do this podcast. Like, let's educate people. Let's help them understand what they're going through, whether it's with their health or with their wealth. And so they can make the best decisions possible. And I remember that night, I just kept thinking, well, why have I invested the way I've invested? And it's because I didn't know what all the options that were out there. And so yeah, that's why it's great to have you guys on the podcast today.
I think here recently, we had a gentleman come to our money class, and prior to coming, a friend had invited him, had been to the class, and he was really nervous about going. He had told the friend, I mean, he almost backed out. He was just like, I don't want to go. I'm really embarrassed of where I'm at. I don't know anything about
Mhm.
money. And the friend was like, this is why you go. You need to go to the class and you need to get that information. Um, and I think we all have preconceived notions of what something's going to be, or that there might be a sales tactic involved in the education piece. But he came to the class and he left and he was like, I didn't feel judged at all. He's like, I received some really great information, felt really a lot more confident about some things that he could be doing differently, that some things that he needed to implement, some things he was already doing well. But he's like, I just couldn't believe that there was none of that. I think Jason, hit the nail on the head. In our industry, we just find a lot of people who talk down to people and make you feel really dumb for not being where they think you should be, or that financial aspect of well, this is going to cost you a lot of money to get you to where you need to be. And so then people put it on the back burner because they're just like, I can barely make the decision to save and where I'm going to save. And now you want me to spend a lot of money for you to show me and tell me where to save. And and that's the money I'm going to use to save. So
Yeah.
so I think it's just that space of they just get stuck doing what they're doing because of all of those fears that come with it. And I think with us charging no fees for people, that makes a huge difference because people can come and sit down with us, no obligation, uh, get the education, answer questions, maybe feel more confident about what they're doing and feel like, oh, great, I am on the right track, or oh, no, maybe I do need to tweak a few things here and there. And I think I love that about what we get to do for people. It doesn't matter if they become a client or not. Our
Mhm.
job is to put people in a better position than where they were when we first met them. And if that just means giving them the reassurance that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing and they're doing a great job, or figuring out what they can do differently and help strategize, better options, then so be it. So it just really is great to be in that service space. And I know you feel the same way with what you do of, people come to us hurting. They come to us struggling, fearful, not knowing what to do, and taking that first step of coming to a class just to get some more information, just takes a weight off of people's shoulders. It's so neat to watch people come in and the way they leave. It's really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. So what do you think is some of the most common, fears or misconceptions that you guys run into when people come? Like, I mean, everybody's like, oh, don't talk money, like they don't share a lot of their financial stuff with people. Do you feel like they're really reluctant to share? Or what do you guys think is one of your biggest barriers or misconceptions that you run into?
I think, and then Jason can share if he thinks any differently or wants to add to it. A lot of it is conditioning in society. One, that none of us talk about it. So none of us get information, and we're just finding information mainly from people who are not professionals. So we always joke about the water cooler, financial people who, you're talking around the water cooler to get your advice. Um, but I think the misconception and the struggle, what I struggle with is people feeling like they're okay. We're all told go get a job, go find a job that has benefits. Those benefits should include health insurance, life insurance, and some, a retirement plan, which most consistently is a 401k, and contribute to all those things, get those things, and by golly, you're great. You're golden. And that's just a false sense of security for people because people think, well, I have the job, I have all these things set up, I'm paying into all these things, so I'm good to go. And the thing is people have no idea. They don't have I just shared the other day, they don't have a manual to their 401k. What are the expectations? What are the rules? What are the tax repercussions? What are the IRS standards? And I sit down with so many people who have no idea, or they believe something that once they realize that that's not the case, then they're like, what do you mean? I did, now I got to think differently because this is what I thought, and that's not the case. So that affects what I'm doing. And the life insurance piece as well. What we get at work is not enough. Is it a really nice benefit? Is it an inexpensive benefit? Absolutely. Should you take it? Yes. But there's so much more to that piece that gives you financial security as well that people are not looking for outside of work because we're just all told go find the job with the benefits. And if you have the benefits, you're good. And so I struggle with society putting that kind of pressure on us, that that's all we're giving as our financial handbook, and then no one wants to go anywhere else because they're like, I have it, I'm good. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, and you hit the nail on the head when you talked about the conditioning of how we are all conditioned to believe that, a 401k is the latest and greatest thing. Um, and then we have the talking heads, we have the talk show hosts, we have the TV, people on TV. I won't name any names, but um, you can probably figure out who I'm talking about. Those people, they don't even have a license to be able to give financial advice. So the problem there is they can say whatever they want and not get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain things, if I said them, I would get in trouble. I'd lose my license.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a problem in America for a lot of people is, the talking heads, the gurus, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
There's a book by David McKnight called The Guru Gap. I would strongly encourage anybody to read that book that has had any experience with the talking heads. So, um, and for me, um, the relationship, you talked about people not wanting to talk about money. The first thing I do with somebody is I build a relationship with them. I find out about them. I find out what their hobbies are, what they like to do away from work, what they like about their work, what they don't, whatever it is. It's a relationship. This is a relationship business. It's not a money business.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and my job, if I owned a used car lot and you came in and you took one of my cars for a drive, and you brought the car back and you told me you liked the car, guess what? You're not leaving until we complete the sales process on that car. That's about a 5 or 6 year commitment. The things that we're going to talk to you about could affect you for the rest of your life, could affect the people that come after you, maybe the people that come after them. I don't feel like I have a right to sell you anything. My job is to educate you and facilitate what you ask me to do for you.
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think, yeah,
Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say that relationship piece is so important because we have, what we do for people affects their life and it affects their family. And so we've already experienced clients uh, that have sat down with us and like the living benefits piece needed the living benefits because of a cancer diagnosis. And so when you're in that position of the responsibility of making sure that their financial household is intact during one of the most devastating pieces of news that they could receive, that in most cases is a financial worry that people then go through. Um, we know what we do, so we can't, just bulldoze people over and expect them to, just strong arm them in, in into doing something because this is the rest of their life and it's going to affect them the rest of their life. And so to be of that service is a really special place that we hold really dear to us.
Yeah. So let's touch one more time on the education piece. You guys do the Wine, Women, and Wealth seminars, but then you also do a Money 101. Is there any other classes that you offer? And then it's just like you guys just hold those locally. You don't do any online education pieces, or do you?
We do. So we have Wine, Women, and Wealth, which is our women event that allows women to come in. We think differently about money. So it isn't, the concepts and the black and white of money. It is the emotional piece, different things that women have to think about when it comes to money, just because of our situations with parents and spouses. And
Mhm.
then Money 101 is the conceptual side, the black and white. These are the concepts, these are the principles, they're never going to change. Let's understand them so you can make great decisions. We do both of those locally. We also offer them virtually. So people can jump in on a virtual Zoom class at least once a week for both. So if it's something that they're not local or they've got kids, it's just easier to stay at home. We do have that convenience of being able to let someone jump into a class and attend without being in person. Um, the other piece to that is we don't really teach any other classes because obviously the principles are the principles and everyone needs to know those. But once someone comes to the class, there's always more education to be done. So when someone attends Money 101 or Wine, Women, and Wealth, there's usually that conversation of I need to sit down with you and I need to learn some more things. Or there's that piece of I really need to figure out a budget. I need to clean up some stuff before I can even consider before I can even
Okay.
consider saving any money. But
Mhm.
that's my first step. And so then we get to walk people across that bridge too. Let's clean,
Mhm.
let's look at your budget. Let's clean some stuff up. Let's rearrange. Let's look and see, let's just get a snapshot. And
Mhm.
then let's figure out what we can do with that snapshot, change some habits if we need to change some habits, reconfigure things. And so a lot of times we walk clients through that first before they ever sit down and start saving. But, it's a piece that has to be done. And sometimes
Mhm.
it's the only piece that gets done, I mean, sometimes that's where they're at. And that's if I can put someone in that position where they feel better about their money and they're at least not living paycheck to paycheck anymore, then I've done something well for them. So
Yeah, that's a great point. And let's talk a little bit about women and money, and the fact that a lot of women don't have any idea. Like if they're married, a lot of them just hand everything over to the husband. And so they get to the point where if that spouse dies, they have no idea, or they need to go through a divorce and they have no idea. Um, or vice versa. You probably find that with men too, where the women handle everything and they don't have a clue. And so, um, I appreciated the space of just women only for the first class that I attended because it can be a little intimidating to be in a room with mixed company and have somebody in there that acts like they know way more than I do, and so then that kind of quiets your voice, and you don't raise your hand to ask a question because you feel like you're going to look stupid. And so I did not feel that way at all in the event that I had attended. And so um, I guess what do you guys see around gender and money? Some commonalities or differences and
so the woman's side of it is just that. I mean, you hit the nail on the head of we have no one to talk to. And I've done Wine Women and Wealth for 10 years and I come across women all the time that share stories with me of going to male financial people and wanting information and being talked down to, or have a woman who maybe has an inheritance from a parent. She wants some advice. Husband goes with her and the person talks to the husband the whole time and doesn't even acknowledge her, even though she's the one asking the questions. They answer the question to the husband and just continue to redirect back to the husband. And so there is that space of we don't have space held for us. We don't get to have those conversations where someone takes us seriously. And then the other piece to that is we still see a lot of women who are still homemakers. who
Mhm.
don't have careers, for one, and so they don't have retirement, they don't have jobs. That also is going to totally affect Social Security if they haven't paid into that. So there's
Mhm.
that piece. And then there's women who do have careers and have jobs, but their jobs don't provide benefits. And so they too are not saving for retirement individually. And so it is all on the spouse's income and what benefits they have available. But they're not planning for both incomes. They're not planning for replacement of maybe two incomes for that. So um, there's a lot of strategies that need to be discussed with women. The other piece to that is we live longer than the male counterpart. Uh, we don't do crazy things. We're usually just a little bit healthier. So statistically, we are going to live longer. Statistically, we wind up with two inheritances in our lifetime, our parents as well as our spouse. And so we have space and time where we do have a financial responsibility that we need to figure out and have questions about. We just don't know who to talk to. And then just non-planning, the expectation that if my spouse is doing this, I'm going to be good. And then you put the other piece to it. I'm remarried, I've been divorced, I've gone through that process as well. And what does it look like? Are we starting all over? Are we asking for the things that we really do um should have a part in? And I think women walk away from a lot of things and leave things on the table because they just want out of the relationship or whatever the case may be. So it's just educating on we're behind no matter what. We're behind on income, we're behind on saving. Stay-at-home moms, single moms are probably not getting life insurance for themselves because the myth behind that is if I'm not the breadwinner, if it's not my income that needs to be replaced, I don't need it. And there's just so much myth to that as well that goes right back to the conditioning of we've all been told if you're not working, you don't need it, so don't have it. And that just sets people up for more failure. If a mom gets sick and she can't take care of kids, or the spouse has to take time off work to take care of her because she is so sick, you're losing income. You're
Mhm.
losing the ability to take care of your family. Um, that's a conversation that needs to happen.
And
Yes.
women provide way more than just income. Women, I love asking guys, what would happen if she got sick? Who's going to take care? Lori already said it, but who's going to take care of the kids? Who's going to take care of her? Who's going to take the kids to the ball game? Whatever.
Mhm.
Um, and it really opens up people's eyes when they stop and think about that. Women are worth a lot more than just being a homemaker.
Mhm. Yeah. It's really, how do you put a price on that? I mean,
Exactly.
yeah, it's
Yes.
very hard to monetize the value of that for sure. Hmm.
And when we try to, it's astronomical.
Yeah.
You think daycare, food, making meals,
Mhm.
taxi, like all the things that us moms do without no one thinking twice about what we do.
Yeah.
It would be a financial burden.
Hmm.
For
And
sure.
usually the spouse then has to take time off work as well, which
Yeah.
then you're losing the income. So
Hmm. Then how about from a man's side of things, the man that he knows nothing about the income and he just hands it all over to the wife to do you run into that very often?
Not very often. I'm trying to think. I think there's
he
been a couple of them.
I
Hmm.
don't think he hears it very often because
Hmm.
it's the conversations us women have in Wine Women of Wealth.
Oh.
I hear very often that
Mhm.
that it's funny. We're not saving for retirement. We're not protecting ourselves. We're not doing the things that our spouses are doing. But so often I hear from women, I pay all the bills. I get the money. I take care of the bills. If something happened to me, he'd have, just like you said, he'd have no idea what I pay.
Mhm.
And so so getting people on the same page, even with that, is nice. You know, getting clients together and then having even spouses see, oh, she does this, he does that. You know, there is that teamwork effort that isn't really being shown because not, you know, not all the information is out there. And I hear it from the other side too. I just think women, we talk about it differently. So I get more of that emotional piece to it because I then have women come to me and talk about how their husbands paid for everything and they
Mhm.
didn't pay for anything and they didn't know where anything was. And when something happened, you know, then it was scrambled to find things. I actually sat down with a woman, it's been about 4 years, who was that. The husband took care of everything. She didn't take care of anything when he did pass away. And so then she had to scramble to find anything that he had no idea what he had. The other kicker to that is they were very big on uh, no credit. Everything was paid for. They were big into the you pay everything off, you pay off the house, which was great. I mean, having the little to no debt was nice, but the struggle that she ended up having is she had no credit history
Yeah.
because the little bit of credit that was being used when they purchased the home and purchased the vehicle was his. So
Mhm.
then when he passed away, yes, everything was paid off, but then she had some expenses that then she couldn't even go get credit to
Mhm.
take care of stuff because she had no credit history. And
Mhm.
so it's those conversations where we think we're doing really great for ourselves. You know, yes, don't get yourself into a lot of debt. You know your debt to income ratio. Don't overextend yourself. Yes, but
Mhm.
there's some benefits to having a credit score and being online, being out there with those numbers. And we, some of the gurus really push don't do that, that you should be self-sufficient. And yes, you want to be self-sufficient, but don't do it in a way where it it hurts you in the long run. So you have to be
Yeah.
smart about it.
Because sometimes life will kick you in the teeth, and you kind of have to be able to pivot.
Yeah.
One of the other things that my daughters and I talk about a lot is the like the personal finance class that they have in high school. Do you guys do any education with kids? Because I was appalled. I shouldn't say appalled. They kind of the education piece that they follow in high school or the pieces that my girls have had was never get a credit card, you never buy anything that you can't afford to just pay for. Again, never building that credit. And I said, well, that's fine and dandy if your mom and dad like give you your house and they give you everything. And but with the price of what things cost nowadays, it's very difficult for anyone to own a home, to own land without being able to go get a loan for it. I mean, that's just the reality of the expense of what we have. And so it was my girls and I've had a lot of conversations about it because they seen both their dad and I with businesses. And we had nothing. I mean, like we didn't come from money. We were very self-made, both of us. And so we didn't have anything to draw on. We didn't have an inheritance. We didn't have a trust fund. We weren't trust fund babies. And so we couldn't have done any of that without some credit. And so trying to teach my girls that, you have to be smart about how you use your credit card. Yes, we could pay for your car, and give you that car, but I'm going to go get a loan for that car, and your name is going to be on that loan so that we start establishing some credit. And so, do you guys do any of those pieces of education with young adults at all, or what are your thoughts on that?
So we are partnered with the high school, but we have not been in the high school to do any classes. We do share with parents a lot to have their kids in, their preteen kids, teen kids, young adults come with them to Money 101 because the education is powerful. So we do promote having them come to the classes. Um, I agree. uh, our youngest just did personal finance last year, and he came home with these worksheets, and I literally shook my head, and I was like, this is what they're teaching you for personal finance. Like, it was, I mean, I felt like it was worse than just at least teaching how to balance a checkbook. you know it just the conversations that I know they're having were very much those conditioning conversations of, and I get, we want kids to understand credit. We want, then let's teach them compound interest, which we teach in Money
Mhm.
101.
Mhm.
How does it work for you? How does it work against you? Once you have that concept down of how it works and why it works and how
Mhm.
it benefits you and how it cannot benefit you, then you get to make the decision of, okay, this might work against me for a while, but if the short term of this gets me this over here, then it's worth it. If
Mhm.
not, or I quit paying on it or do, something terrible with it, and then it gets me into financial trouble, you understand what it's doing and why it's doing it.
Mhm.
And that it just all comes down to the education and the understanding of it. And so I struggle with, why are we not teaching that? Why are we not teaching the piece of, this is how it works. This
Mhm.
is how you get great compound interest and it works for you. This is how it can work against you. Choose wisely.
Yeah.
And then you now have the power, because you're like, okay, I
Mhm.
know that if I'm getting 4% interest over here on this loan, I'm going to maybe consider paying it off faster, or I'm going to take care of this over here before I do something over here. But now if I have an 18% interest on some debt, I'm probably going to be really concerned about taking care of that than to just letting it go and letting that build up, and
Mhm.
or not take it at all. And be like, no, I'm
Mhm. Mhm.
don't want that. So,
Mhm.
but if we don't have that information, we can't make great decisions. So just to tell people, don't get credit cards is not educating people of the power of why you should have some credit established, and the power
Mhm.
of how not to get into trouble with your credit and how not to get in trouble with the interest rates. So,
Mhm.
and you're right, no one's buying houses outright.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they need to have established credit. We with our oldest, she got a loan right away for a car. Um, and then I also put her on my credit cards. She didn't have access to them, but she got access to my utilization. So as
Mhm.
I used the credit card and paid it off and used it and paid it off, since she was on there, it counted as if she was utilizing that credit. And
Mhm.
so when she came out of high school, she had a really nice, she had at least a footprint. Uh,
Mhm.
so then, she's 21 now, and she's bought her own house. She bought it last year. She bought it when she was 20. So,
That's awesome. Yeah.
yeah. So when we can do those things and educate our kids, they're going to make the good decisions right off the gate. They might make some mistakes, but if they have the education behind them, they're going
Hmm.
to already make the good decisions. The other piece to that is the savings piece for kids.
Hmm.
We don't talk about saving right away. The importance of pay yourself first, the importance of, now you have an income. What are you going to do with some of that? We get in that habit early on. It takes less money to get where we want to go than when we wait till our 30s and 40s and then go, oh, the kids are out of school. Now it's time to start saving. Oh,
Hmm.
now I need 3, 4, 5 times the amount of money I would have needed if I would have started in my 20s.
Yeah.
So,
The average age that we start saving for retirement in the United States is 53.
Mm. Oh, I have a year.
you're like, yay, I started early. But when we think about it, we think we have kids, our first jobs are not the greatest, kids are expensive, we're
Mhm.
just doing life. We don't have enough left over because we never set that habit up. And
Mhm.
so by the time we get them all off to college or out of the house, we're like, oh, wait, I
Mhm.
forgot to start saving. And so um, if we could peel a little bit off in the beginning and make that habit, it's a lot easier to have that habit in place than it is to try to create it later and go through the pain points and go through the emotional side of money because
Mhm.
that's actually what we're dealing with is the emotional.
Yeah. And so many people will say, well, money is the root of all evil. And talking about the emotional side of money. And um, you know, it's very interesting to have a conversation with somebody that feels that way. Because money has no emotion. It's what we tie our emotions to. And what is our history, our background, and how did we come up with our feelings about money? And it even was interesting to me, like if I had someone sitting at the front desk of my PT clinic that was broke and struggled with money, they would not ask for a copay from somebody because they assumed that that person had the same image of money and the same money problems that they did. And so when I actually had someone at the front desk that had a better image of money, the collections at the front desk improved. And so some of the people that were in some of my PT management groups, they would say you need to run a credit score on your front desk person. And I'm like, what? But that was why. Like why, what is their image of money? And are they going to be willing to ask for payment? Or are they just going to assume that everybody's in the dire straits that they are in? And so I thought that was a really interesting perspective. And if you do run across somebody that says, money is the root of all evil, how do you guys handle that?
I actually just had this conversation Monday night.
Oh,
and, it,
cool.
and it was funny because it was with a couple parents and their kids. And we got on the subject of money. I think most conversations I end up on the subject of money.
Mhm.
And that was thrown out, money is the root of all evil. And I said, and they actually said it more so that that's, they hear it a lot. They didn't really say it as if it was their belief system. And I said, yeah, I said, I find that so interesting because money is just exchange.
Mhm.
That's all it is. And we need money to exchange whatever it is that we need.
Mhm.
And for what I need to do in life and what impact I'm going to make on life and the people around me, it's going to take a certain amount of money. And
Mhm.
my certain amount of money is different than Jason's certain amount of money that's different than yours. And so that's just the exchange of it. And then I take it the step further of with it being the root of all evil, that goes back to childhood conditioning. What did our parents say about people? Usually it came with, well, that person's wealthier than us, so therefore how they're managing their money was maybe a struggle of their own reflection of their own financial picture. Um, and I just tell people there are good people who have a lot of money, and there are bad people who have a lot of money. But there are
Mhm.
good people who don't have a lot of money, and there are bad people who don't have a lot of money. And it's not the money,
Yeah,
it's the people. And
exactly.
so I think when we take all of that out of it, and that we all have choices, we can choose to do good or we can choose to do bad. We can choose to keep it and be greedy with it, or we can choose to help, the charities and the work that we want to do in life. That's the human choice that we get. And the thing is probably the things I want to help with are not high priority list items that someone else would want to help with. So even though I might be doing good with my money, someone might still look down upon that because it's not what good they would do with it. And so, um, and every little bit is good, if you're someone who doesn't do, doesn't have a lot of money, whatever you're doing volunteering wise, helping out, that's your good. So it isn't really the money exchange. It's what we do with it that makes a difference.
I agree. Well, I think we could talk all day about this stuff. I know there's a whole lot more that we have discussed, and every time we get together, it seems like it's probably a 2 hour minimum that we discuss things. I would love to have you guys back again to talk about some of the things. We touched a little bit on the living benefit today. One of the things that I really appealed to me about what you guys do is the tax-free indexed account, which we're setting up for my girls. And so those are some topics that I want to discuss in the future. But I think if we talked about them today, I know we do not have probably enough time to do them justice. So, any other closing thoughts you guys have? That you really wish people knew more about, or anything else that just on the topic of money, what should we discuss?
So for myself, it would be come check out Wine, Women, and Wealth or Money 101.
Okay.
Um, we call it finances on tap only for the fact that we provide the first beer for free for those that drink, just for a little bit more fun piece.
Mhm.
Money's dry, money's boring. No one wants to come to the class. And
Mhm.
we get it only because there's some fear based to it. Also, there's that piece of I don't think I need your class. So we have the ego piece, and we also have the piece of people just being worried of, am I going to be judged? Am I going to, what are all the things that could happen? What's the class really about? All the things.
Mhm.
I would just tell people come to one of our classes. You're going to be really surprised when you come sit down to a class and find out it's strictly education,
Mhm.
and walk away with some great concepts. I
Mhm.
also say it doesn't matter where you've been saving, if you've been saving your whole entire life and you think you've got it all together, or you haven't started saving at all, there is something in the class for everyone. I have yet to have someone who has walked in, had it all together, had it all figured out, doing everything right, that didn't walk away and go, man, those are some really great concepts. And actually, some of that stuff I didn't really know, but you put it in a way that I now understand it, even though they're doing well. Because sometimes those of us that are doing well are only doing well by chance. We're not doing well by, methodical strategy that, we were given. It's more by chance. So um, the class is free. You get dinner.
Mhm.
Like, why not? Why not just go check it out and feel better about money?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, if you're going to go out for an evening with your friends, why not learn something while you're
yeah.
there
Yeah.
instead of just gossiping about
Yep,
everybody?
yep, yep. So, and I
Mhm.
think, yeah, people would be super surprised on the information that they get. And and how confident they could just walk away from just one class.
Yeah. So where can they find a schedule of events? What's the best way? How do they get a hold of you guys if they want to figure out when the next class is or sign up? Because we have listeners across the nation. We have them honestly across the world. Like shout out to our French listeners because we
Oh,
are very
nice.
popular in France. I don't know if you guys can do international stuff, but anyways, yeah. So if they are not here, how do they get a hold of you? How do they figure out where and when your events are?
Uh, they can they can find most of our information on Facebook. We do have a website, midwestfamilyfinancial.com. Uh, that website's going to get them at least our phone numbers and emails. So if they want to call or email, text, whatever,
Mhm.
uh, that's probably the easiest way to get a hold of us, especially if they're not local and they're looking for how do I get into a class that's virtual.
Mhm.
Uh, for local people, we always put the event out on Facebook and they're always on Tuesdays. So so they can almost guarantee that on a Tuesday evening we're going to be at McCabe's doing something. So but if they want to reach out and ask, they can reach out. They can message me on Facebook, message Jason, or find our website and get a hold of us through calling or email. So
Okay. And make sure you mention you heard about it on Pivot Point of View.
yes, for sure.
That's right. And quick shout out to McCabe's. It's a newer establishment here in downtown North Platte, but they've been very gracious hosting us. And so if you haven't checked out McCabe's yet, that would be a good way for you to check out McCabe's.
And not cost you
Yeah,
anything.
not cost you anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. I I'll have to come again. I did really enjoy the class that I did attend, and so I highly recommend it. Get a friend, go down there, enjoy the evening, get some education, and in a very non-threatening, very relaxed atmosphere for sure.
Thank
Cool.
you.
Awesome.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. And as always, let your health, discipline, and I guess financial education be the pivot point to your success.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much, Becky.
Thank you.